Ugh, another pointless video call where nothing gets done. I think you're on mute, David.
Sorry. What did I miss?
IT just approved Miro for the whole company.
Miro. That's the...
Online whiteboard for team collaboration. We can make these long video meetings so much shorter with Miro boards. We can share ideas, feedback, and updates on them whenever. Actually see what we're talking about.
It's all online.
Miro will make our flexible work setup so much easier. With one virtual space for our brainstorms, projects, presentations.
Oh, that sounds kind of amazing. So I don't need to wake up for 6 a.m. calls with the London office anymore.
Now you're getting it.
Don't let time zones get in the way of your team working well together. See why 99% of the Fortune 100 trust Miro to get good work done from anywhere. Get your first 3 boards free at Miro.com. That's Miro.com.
With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
Hey everyone, welcome to Webcology on WMR.fm. It's the 23rd of February, 2023. This is Jim Hedger from Digital Always Media and Christine Schackinger from Sites Without Walls. And welcome to Webcology. So, Christine, it's fun week that just went past, a really fun week coming up. And we got a sponsor.
Yes, we do. I'm so excited. It's such a cool product too.
Well, why don't you take a sec to introduce our sponsor?
Sure. It's Tom Rustling, his company. They have a product. I don't think it's in full release yet, called Audience Key. It's going to be an amazing product to help make your keyword research to content brief to tracking how well it does super simple, and put it all in one place so you can easily make changes. And they're also using edge technology, so you can do it without even bothering a developer if you want.
We're going to have Tom on the show next week. And in the meantime, Christine and I are both going to be using Audience Key to try to spice up content and just get a general feel of the tool. I can't wait to ask him a bunch of questions about development and why they made certain. I love talking to tool makers about why they make decisions and who they were trying to design for, what problems they were trying to solve as they were going along. And Audience Key is a lot of fun to work with, so it's going to be a pretty fun interview.
Yeah, because one of the things that I always pick on, because I've designed interfaces my whole career, right, is how easy it is to use. And I find that it's a very easy product to use, which is really nice. So I think once we get Tom on to talk about it, people will get excited about it. So.
Audience Key, we're going to make up a great tagline for it pretty soon.
Yes.
Or maybe we'll get AI to do it for us. Actually, we won't get AI to do it for us, but we might get AI to help us. Lots of people are using AI, so much so that the cost for Bing and for OpenAI, their costs have skyrocketed recently. Using AI in a computer, an AI assisted search, or even just trying to do a query, getting AI to complete a task for you, uses a tremendous amount of computing power and thus a whole bunch of electricity. And so much so that Bing has been compelled to increase the cost of access to Bing search and image search APIs by like 3 to 10 times.
Yeah, what was the actual cost? I didn't get it. I didn't see that.
Well, I mean, there's no actual cost because it really depends on what you're grinding through their system. The cost is relative to usage, but they're going to be increasing 3 times to 10 times depending on the on what you're doing, what you're accessing. I understand that the greatest cost increases are going to be around image search API because facial recognition and working with images and AI is just incredibly taxing.
Well, it is one of the things that doesn't get talked about. The dirty little secret of all this AI is it is more carbon producing than Bitcoin and crypto. And it'll be used much by many more people and many more situations and environments. So they're going to have to find a way to fix that issue. But that would, I'm not surprised at all that their costs went up because of the cost. It's a very cost intensive process. Truly, I think they would do better just to do an AI Clippy, Microsoft would, than an AI search, because then people would just use it, you know, for things they wanted assistant help with instead of on every search that they do. So,
well,
we'll
you know,
see how that works.
as time goes on, it looks like both OpenAI and Microsoft, and at this point, I think we kind of got to sever OpenAI and what they're presenting to the public and Microsoft Bing and what it's presenting to the public, even though it's informed by and backstopped by OpenAI. It looks like Microsoft is learning from bitter experience.
Quick bitter experience.
Yeah, recent bitter experience. And is, you know, it's actually finding ways to, for want of, and I don't like this term, put guardrails around around what its version of GPT is putting out. And there was a really neat article that was up in Search Engine Journal. It's a Roger Monti piece, and it was published earlier today. Or I'm sorry, earlier yesterday, and it outlines how Bing uses web content. Because or how Bing AI uses web content. Because very recently, Microsoft Bing's new AI offering is now considering contemporary information directly from Bing's index.
Kind of, though I've not read all this yet, and it's a lot to digest because they use Prometheus and they also use something called Orchestrator.
Well,
but
yeah.
it's like a side-by-side project. So it's not doing information retrieval and bringing back results. It's bringing back results next to the GPT, if that makes sense.
Prometheus is the name word used to describe the combination of data out of the search index and what Microsoft is next generation GPT, and the orchestrator is I guess the environment in which these inputs are combining in. So the query comes through and is interpreted by orchestrator, and Prometheus is where the namespace, I don't know, the box that search and next generation GPT combine in to come out with a response to whatever orchestrator threw at them.
Yes, definitely. The thing that, though, because I still see people making this mistake, the GPT is not going in and doing information retrieval. It's not looking for answers and then summarizing them. What they're doing is using Orchestrator to provide contextual content for what GPT brought back. So it hasn't always been right, though, just like what happens with GPT. But so it's like a parallel project, right? It's like, here's what I think, and then here's, well, it doesn't think, but if I was a human, and here's my citations where I might have, you could look at to like contextualize what I'm thinking, give you more information.
But you can see the progression of what Microsoft's engineers are trying to do. Like there's logic to where they're trying to take it.
Oh, there is, definitely.
And yeah, it may or may not pass the accuracy test. And let's remember the people who posted all this stuff to Bing's index, well, they're you and me. They're just folks. They're publishers. They're web publishers, just like everyone who's listening to this show. Most of that information is going to be accurate because most people actually care about what they put online, and some of that information is not going to be accurate because some people don't care.
Well, yeah, but it's not about accuracy, about caring and not caring when it comes to GPT
Well,
models.
when it comes to well, I'm only saying that because, like you say, it's just predictive text. It's just pulling stuff up.
Mad Libs. It's Mad Libs.
So
It's
the veracity of it, the truthiness of it,
Yeah.
for want of a better phrase, is completely related to the veracity of the corpus of work it's drawing data from.
Well, it's not even that though. It's not. If you read Sam Altman when they released ChatGPT, he said don't use this for any serious work because it has no way to check its accuracy or truth or truthiness, any of that, because it's not information retrieval. So
Well,
I see people.
As I said, garbage in, garbage out.
Well, it's not garbage in, garbage out. It's just predicted text. So it's just it trained on 1 trillion documents, but it still puts out really funky stuff, right? So it's not that. It's just predicting a word. So it doesn't think. It doesn't have context. It semantically relates the words in the sentences, so it doesn't go crazy off the rails and go the train can fly, because that's not semantically related, right? But the orchestrator isn't the ChatGPT going and getting stuff from the web and summarizing it. It's giving you the predictive text answer, and then it's giving you, as if you had searched for it, the links. Let's just call it the 10 blue links here. 10 blue links here that come aside it, so you can read other things, and then you could do your own veracity check, because it doesn't have any way to know if it's accurate or not accurate, and it's not based on what it was trained on in this case, because it was trained on 1 trillion documents with, I think, 790 billion parameters or something like insane like that. But it's just based on what it brings back in a sentence in the way that the prompt is asked. So
indeed.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
the more it goes on, the more it hallucinates, which for those who don't know, that is an actual machine learning term for making stuff up. So that New York Times article we talked about last time, he went on, for hours talking to it. Well, the more it talks, gets prompts after prompt after prompt related to the ones before, it will hallucinate more and more and more. So it just makes it fun.
This is why Microsoft engineers are kind of staying up all night long to put guardrails around their next generation GPT they output. Well, they don't want another incident like that.
They put a guardrail up already.
In fact, I understand they've limited its responses to 4 levels deep inside of a conversation. 5 levels deep inside of a conversation. So it's never going to get deep enough to profess its true undying love to you. It can't anymore. I mean, and if it does, then it's been reading some serious literature.
Well, yeah, they had to limit it to 5 because they didn't want it to hallucinate anymore and tell men to leave their wives, like it did with the New York Times reporter, or to threaten people. Apparently, it threatened people and insulted people.
Well, it was doing that to its developers.
No, I did it to other people too. There are people posted on Twitter that they got it to do that. Yeah.
You know what? If just a quick hint to GPT, if it is smart enough to be informed by this show, you can threaten regular web users because they don't know any better. But if you threaten your developers, they're going to get you. Yep. Keep that in mind. Whatever sort of mind you keep stuff in. Okay, some actually stuff happened. Other stuff that has nothing to do with AI happened in search this week. Actually, probably has a lot to do with AI, but we're not gonna need to mention AI to talk about it.
You mean we're not going to just talk about AI for the whole hour? I'm so bummed.
For instance, anybody in the e-com world might have been jolted awake this week by the new product review update. Now, normally I don't get excited or jolted awake by Google algorithm updates. They happen fairly frequently, and if you do your job well, they should be fairly innocuous, but this one seems different. This one has been jarring. I've seen major changes in search results because of the review update, and it could just be because of the types of sites that I've been working on. But I don't know. I got a feeling that this is a larger update than and will have bigger implications than previous review updates. And let's remember, there's been 4 review updates. There were 4 review updates in 2022.
Yeah, it's crazy. And just so people know, this one will take about 2 weeks to finish.
Yeah, it was announced earlier this week, although it may have started rolling out earlier than that. It probably started rolling out Saturday or Sunday. Google announced it on Monday. Again, I have the feeling that this one is big because it may well, or I have a feeling this may be the last of the major product review updates, just because of the for want of a better word, severity of it.
Well, you know, they apparently are putting what they're saying in their, you know, in the Google Search Central blog, and their documentation is they want to move away from just thin summarized like reviews, and they want real reviews based on people that actually use the product. So I'm sure that it's going to affect a lot of people.
Well,
And just so people know, it's rolling out in English, Spanish, German, French, Italian, Vietnamese, Indonesian, Russian, Dutch, Portuguese, and Polish.
so pretty much every language group.
Yeah, pretty much. But there's a few missing, but pretty much.
Was Chinese on the list?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So marketers, free for all at Alibaba for a little while. The striking thing about this for me is Google wants to put more emphasis on reviews from people who actually have had experience using the product, not but they don't want webmasters or marketers or retailers to go out and do anything to solicit the reviews. They just want the reviews to come in. And most reviews are 2 or 3 lines maximum. Good product, did what I wanted. I like it.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. But they definitely don't want those, and they don't want summarized. I don't know how they're going to determine someone actually used the product, except my belief is they use just semantic information about what's posted in the review, like what would be expected to be in there if they were really writing from a, you know, have used it point of view. But it's a difficult problem.
Well, it makes me wonder if webmasters should direct their site visitors in how to talk about and review their products. Maybe you should have drop-down prompts. Drop-down prompts leads to an open text box. Good luck engaging the interest of the user over a long period of time and getting them to actually complete these steps towards a quote-unquote review conversion. But moreover, if we call it a review conversion, is it going to be something that Google gets mad about 2 months from now?
By the way, Jim just coined the word review conversion. So I just want to make sure you get credit.
Well, you know, at one time, there was honestly a debate over who coined the term organic search. And it was either me, Danny Sullivan, or Bruce Clay. Each of us claim the other did it. I think it was Danny Sullivan. 100% think it was Danny Sullivan. He said it was Bruce Clay.
Oh, I don't know. I was right before I got into search. But yeah.
But I'll take review conversion for sure.
Review conversion. Okay. The other thing people should know about this is it is at the page level, but if you have a lot of reviews, it can affect the whole site. So they can do a whole site-wide evaluation on your site if they feel that your product reviews are not quality. But they're more looking to get away from like the summarization type and the thing content one. So if you're like Amazon and you have like the product I looked at yesterday had 4,000 reviews, you're not going to have a problem. I think it's going to be more of a struggle for smaller companies that have much fewer reviews to make sure they get real reviews done, you know, with people writing real things about the product, not just I like it, which you're right, that is often in the review section.
Well, again, like I don't honestly, once my problem is solved, I have things to do with that product and things to do with my time. I don't really have a lot of time to sit and tell other consumers why this product solved my problem. I'll do that in a forum. I'll do that in an SEO conversation. I'll do that in a whole bunch of different environments. But I don't see any reason why I would sit on the Blue Widget website explaining why Blue Widgets made a difference in my life.
Now, see, now when it comes to reviews, especially if it's like a Google review, you know, it's visible everywhere. I rarely leave reviews. I cannot speak today. Not good on a podcast. I rarely leave reviews, but when I do, they are lengthy. Most of the time because they were really outstanding. Occasionally because they were not. But I do leave long ones, like 3, 4, 5 paragraphs.
Well, again, for webmasters, the what's in it for me thinking. So you might leave a long review, Christine, because there's something in it for you. You could use this space to get your ideas out. Maybe you ever throw a URL or two in your review?
No, actually, I do it because I really like the business and I want them to have more business so they stay around. But what's in it for me is that they stay around.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
I don't write many negative reviews. If I do, it's because the only real negative review I've written in the last like 3 years is a local store when I do a delivery for ice and a couple other items and say cancel the order if there's no ice. They show up without the ice because they didn't give the driver the ice 70% of the time. So they got a negative
I always
review,
wondered about that because you live in a very hot climate. Maybe the ice just disappeared. He had it. They had it when they started, but it just wasn't there. I don't know what happened to it. It just disappeared.
No. I wish it was, but it's just funny because it was like I have 2 items on the order. How did you forget the ice? But
not all website visitors are going to be as kind as you. What are I think webmasters should think about ways that will prompt users to expound on the benefits of or the goodness of using their product, and that may involve subtly creating some benefit for them. Although you cannot trade benefit for good review because Google will get you for that.
Yeah, exactly. That's very true. It's a very tricky thing, reviews. You have to be very careful because it's not only one of the things that they act on in the algorithm, but manually as well. So,
it would be a much smarter way to judge the strength of a product. How many links they get back from other websites? Something like that.
That's a really great idea. I bet you could get investors for that. You should call it back rub, though. You should call it back rub.
Indeed. Someone should patent that.
For people who don't know, the original Google name for Google was back rub.
Indeed.
That reference. Yeah.
Okay, so product review update has dropped. It's running. It'll go through a couple of weeks. Watch closely if you're in the e-com space. Watch your product snippets, especially. That case I was showing you, Christine, has actually gained some overnight, which is bizarre. But there's a great deal of volatility happening there.
But by the way, just to throw in here, during this update, I've noticed, and this isn't necessarily related to product reviews at all. Have you noticed that the search results are suddenly super clean most of the time? Like there's not a lot of stuff in them, e-commerce, not so much, but everything else, like no knowledge graphs, just a PAA, maybe a featured snippet. Like a lot of stuff is missing.
Well, again, I think we're in a time of great change, and Google is introducing or integrating new inputs into search results. I think this weekend and next week are going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's the only reason. Yeah, they're testing stuff. That's the only reason stuff would disappear is because they're testing. So next week we will see change. Almost guarantee it.
Sometime soon.
Okay, Google's done another pretty cool change. This one I'm really, really pleased about. They are changing user permissions in Search Console, giving some users more access, and giving people who own the Search Console profile the ability to give staggered access to different parts of of the Search Console profile based on what they need to know. You can distinguish between verified and delegated owners. You can easily remove people who shouldn't be seeing stuff anymore. And how many of us still have access to Search Console accounts or profiles from accounts gone by?
Some of them are 15 years old.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Treasure troves of data.
Exactly.
Ability to change permission levels, whether you're an owner, full, restricted. Ability to see your property's verification tokens for all current users or previous users, and see tokens left over by previous owners. And ownership events history. You know, when people go and do stuff in Search Console, you have like 4 or 5 people who have access to the profile, and suddenly, I don't know, a bunch of, I don't know, say 404s are being, or some stuff that was judged 404s is now being verified somehow. And you wonder, how the hell did that happen? Now you'll know.
Yes, you'll have the actual data, which you didn't always have in the past. I always, when I start with a new client on the long term, I always go look at their console and analytics and ask, do we need all these people on here? I'm sure somebody hates me for that, but.
Well, I mean, there's so much you can learn from the data in Search Console. And I do think that more people in organizations should have access to both Google Analytics and Search Console, as well as training in understanding what they're looking at. But if you touch a damn thing there, you should be in so much trouble. Like, that's a firing offense.
Oh yeah, very much. Very restrict their access to. But I have like access to old accounts. I have this rule. If I've asked you 3 times to remove me and you haven't, then you're just data for the future. So I'll look, you know, when an update comes through or something, just because I know the site, I'll check those sites and just see. Otherwise, I never look at it. But it's just kind of funny because I don't know. I asked one client 10 times to take me off. They never did. So I'm like, I'm done asking. So
I may lose access to a number of accounts in the next few weeks, but the truth is, like you said, I got access that goes back almost a decade in some cases.
okay.
And
Exactly.
I don't really look very often, but I do look periodically because it's I understand those files, I understand those websites, and their experience teaches me more about how, you know, the web and Google and etc. have worked. But they really should cut off access. That would be a very smart security.
So anyone who doesn't work with Google Search Console, that you can sometimes just cancel it, but sometimes you can't. So after you've asked a number of times, it's like, oh, well, I guess they don't care. So I'm like you, I never really look at it, but if there's a big update that goes through, then I might check just to see if they're affected, because I know the site and I know, you know, its issues and stuff like that. So, but that's really the only time I look. They're just in there because it's just like, I've asked you so many times, you're not removing me. So whatever, it just sits there. So. But definitely interesting, all those changes. That'll be nice to have that control.
This has been a week of Google giveth around Search Console. SEOs are often used to the weeks where Google taketh away. This is a week where Google giveth, because Google, Barry Schwartz in Search Engine Land. It's good to mention Barry's name at least once per show. Barry Schwartz wrote a piece just 2 days ago. Google Search Console is going to add daily bulk data exports to BigQuery.
Yes.
So that is it's wonderful. If you're a data geek, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I think it's really good, but it does use SQL, I believe. So you definitely have to, maybe a little learning curve for some people.
Quite, but you are able to create and craft data dashboards for clients in ways that and bringing in combinations of stuff that Looker just won't allow you to do. Looker being what they used to call Data Studio.
The worst named product in Google history. Okay. I know it was called Liquor before they bought it, but still, it sounds like it's like a peeper in your window. Like, hey.
I'm pretty sure that this, and it's hard. It's really hard to be the worst named product in Google history, given their history of naming products.
Yes.
But yeah, you might be right. Looker is probably the worst.
The worst
Like,
one. Can you think of any as bad as Looker? Like, and I
no.
know I'm not alone in this. I've seen many SEOs comment on it. It's just, it sounds like kind of pervy. Like, I'm
Yeah.
looking at you. And they are. I mean, looking at data, and I get it. When you were a small business, I get it. But I think Google probably should have done a little rebranding there. But yeah, BigQuery is great. It just has a little bit of a learning curve. It may not be every SEO that can use it, but if you can, it's a phenomenal ability now to just dump data, create dashboards. And if you haven't looked at BigQuery and you don't know how to do the pull statements, it's not a hard language to learn. So take a look and give yourself the opportunity to see if you can do it, because it's really not that difficult to write the statements that will pull the data for you.
Okay. Last piece of Google news for now. There may be more stuff coming as the show goes on, but the last piece for right now, favicons are no longer needed to be hosted on the same domain. So you can be importing your favicon from a different domain, provided you code it properly.
That always seems such a weird thing. Like all your images could be on your CDN, but your favicon couldn't. So it's nice that you can do that now.
Yep. So that's what I got. Do you have anything else from Google News, like specifically Google stuff? I know there's more out there that we're not gonna cover this week. Is there anything that you think is really important that we should touch on?
No product update. No, I think that's pretty much everything that's big this week.
Like, product update had me really freaked out. So I had to go on that one.
Yeah, well, we looked at a bunch of search results so people know, and noticed that the review stars no longer exist in those search results. We haven't figured out why, but it might be related to the product review. So
again, that's worth watching over time. And over geography too, because sometimes Google will be doing something on the right side of the country and the left side of the country that totally doesn't see it, or vice versa, or different countries, or as you mentioned earlier, by language groups. Okay, this is if I go on a bit of a rant here, I apologize. I'm really unhappy about this. It was announced earlier this week that Meta, Facebook, or the Meta family, Facebook and Instagram, are going to jump onto Elon Musk's checkmark for hire bandwagon and start charging $11.99 a month American for a blue verified checkmark to go with your account. This will prove that you're you because you paid $12.
But here's the thing that really, okay.
Oh, well, they do want to see government ID. That's actually a requirement to see government ID. So yeah, they got that going for them.
Because Facebook's so good with data privacy. But anyway, so my little addition to your rant here is on Twitter and Facebook, the two CEOs made bad decisions that lost them a lot of money, right? So they're trying to make the money back up. But on Twitter, it's meaningless now to have a blue check. Like, it doesn't mean anything. So most real blue check people have just let them go. But the point is, you don't know everybody on Twitter. So having the verified blue check was important to know that the senator was really the senator and not, some guy pretending to be the senator. But on Facebook, why would you need that if you're not already a famous person and they already have a verification process for that, right? Because unless you're adding lots of strangers, but you're still adding them, so they reached out to you and you said yes, so they knew who you were, why would you need to verify? So it's just for me on Facebook, there's so little need for that, but it's an ego thing. But what they're also tying to that is you can have phone support if someone takes hacks your account and
is afraid. So it's like, yeah, this isn't for your ego. This is for your protection.
Well, yeah. Well, no. I mean, if you're just getting the blue check to be verified on Facebook, where everybody already knows you, that's kind of ego. But people that had more
Christine,
famous.
you've put years and years and years of effort into your Facebook profile. That's where your repository of personal images is. That's what you shared with your family and your friends. If your family wants to come and see what you look like now, that's where they're going to just to check in on you. And it would be a real pity to see something happen to that, wouldn't it?
It would, but I don't think they need the blue check to verify it's me.
No, but that's the
my-
threat. That's the threat he's throwing at
It
you.
is the threat.
You're gonna
Oh,
have
yeah.
phone support in case somebody, like, goes and hijacks your profile on you.
Because our security is bad, and therefore we're not going to fix it. We're going to just give you priority support.
Am
And-
I wrong in reading it that way? Like that's
No,
how I
exactly
heard
what
it.
says. No, that's what it says.
So
his
here's what
statement
really
says.
makes me mad, though. What and Musk did this too. I understand that both Meta and Twitter need to recoup costs. Although, as I understand it, the number of people who, even if you had 2 million people on Twitter verify themselves at $7 or $8 a month, that's only $16 million. That's nothing. That doesn't count. That doesn't pay for a month's worth of bandwidth at Twitter. It's just, I don't think that pays for the bedroom conversions in the Twitter high rise. It's meaningless money to them. Similarly with Facebook,
Well,
they burned through billions trying to develop their metaverse. $12 here and there for all their users is literally meaningless money when we're talking about burning billions.
But he can make billions. So the difference is on Twitter, according to this, I think it's Social Media Today, but Twitter has only 180,000 Twitter Blue subscribers, which is 0.2%. So people aren't buying into it. But Facebook has, 3 billion users?
Sure.
They're active. So I haven't checked this in a long time. So So in January 2023, they had 2.96 billion users that were considered active.
So how many of those are going to pay $12 for a track mark?
But if I only get 100 million to pay $11, that's a billion. That's a billion, right?
Well, I guess you're crossing if you get 100 million of those users to go for a blue check mark, you are crossing that threshold. But I'm not sure what social network needs 100 million verified persons for. It makes no sense at all. And here's what really bugs me. Here's the crux of what gets me. For us in North America, this is like a telephone. It's nothing. It's a communications device. It's become something that's incredibly crucial to our businesses and to the way we communicate. But if necessary, and as we've seen with the migration away from Twitter, people could pick up and move somewhere else if they had to. But as a method of democratization and of communicating with the world for the poor, for people who don't live in North America or Europe, who don't live in the developed world, Twitter and Facebook are indispensable communications tools. They're indispensable for organizing politically. They're indispensable for organizing economically, and to create different classes of citizen in this world based on who can afford $12 American per month, which again for us is nothing. That's 3 days worth of cappuccinos or less. But for some people, $12 American is a lot of money. It's an extraordinary amount of money.
It is. It definitely
and
is.
That's the universe that Zuckerberg and Musk are creating. And I fear that many people will not be able to access a critical communications platform.
Well, outside of the US, though, WhatsApp, even though it's owned by Facebook, is massively important. So they use it, like all my European friends, my friends.
Certainly, I use WhatsApp frequently as well, but it's not a communications platform like Facebook or Twitter. It's not. It doesn't perform the same.
No, it doesn't. But I mean, I could see a lot of people though just saying forget it, because I mean, Twitter's losing users, and you can't. The problem behind this is we have 2 CEOs who did bad jobs and they burned money. and now they want the users to pay for their mistakes. And that just makes people resent your platform. So as soon as there's an opportunity to go somewhere else, they will. And I imagine if you're in one of those countries where they're like $12, well, they'll go, well, I'll just use WhatsApp because it's free. So I just imagine that they're really shooting themselves in the foot here. Also, like we said on Facebook, it's really not about the verification because everybody knows you anyway. It's about the support if you get hacked. But I mean, am I going to pay $12 a month for years in case one day I might get hacked on my account? Some people might, but I think most won't. And then I just don't think it's the play they think it's going to be. I think as Musk only has 180,000, 0.2% of their users subscribing, and he killed any meaning for the blue check on Twitter. So now it's completely meaningless. And now they're trying to charge companies and organizations, commercial organizations, like $1,000 a month for their blue check, just to make up the difference for the people that didn't subscribe. It's not a model that works. It's not a business model that's going to bring the money in. So I have a feeling in a year, these will be non-existent programs because they're just not a thing. Like I could see Facebook saying, hey, if you get hacked, pay us $25 and you can talk to us and we will get your account back. I could see that because, you're paying for a service, but paying every month on the off chance I might have to call them one day, I just can't see people putting their money into that. And even in the US, $12 can be a lot of money for a lot of people here.
Well, I mean, it's just one subscription service on another subscription service on another
On
subscription
another, on
service on
another,
another
on
on
another,
another.
on another, on another. I wrote an article about this when this first started happening about 15 years ago.
Yeah, and it's maddening. It's maddening to see yet another avenue for communication become a walled, well, Facebook always was a walled garden. Facebook is controlled by algorithm. And Facebook isn't necessarily the extraordinary communications tool that Twitter is, or free communications tool Twitter could be. But
by the way, go ahead.
But it is a platform that can reach tens and tens of millions of people if used properly. And to close it off, and I do see this as a means of limiting participation by the poorest in the world. I think it's horrible.
Well, I think it's horrible. There's no mandatory that you have to pay it, and it's not involved
Today.
in how. That's true, but right now there's not a mandatory, which is different what Twitter did. This Twitter now requires you to have Twitter Blue to have 2FA. So you can't use a basic security protocol. You can use Google Authenticator and other authentication apps, but their basic security on the platform is now you have to pay for it. They won't give it to you through the platform. So I think that's when it's where people have to make a decision. Whereas Facebook, it's not going to change your amplification. It's not going to change anything unless you happen to get hacked all the time, then maybe you'd purchase it. But I do agree with you. They should not be charging for it, and they shouldn't be charging $12 a month for it. They should charge a, one-time will help you fee if they really need the money to cover services. But it's hard to feel sorry for companies that are worth billions and billions and billions of dollars, and CEOs who get billions and billions of dollars. It's kind of like, guys, stop scraping it off your users.
I don't feel bad for the companies themselves as people, or even the CEOs themselves as people. I do feel bad for the people who work for those companies.
Yeah.
The lives that get built around ideas or commitments that are, in Twitter's case, became radically unfulfilled. I wonder how much Twitter charges Russian propagandists for the blue check of credibility.
Apparently the same amount.
I was about to say that's the answer. The answer is exactly what they charge you and me. A Washington Post story today, I'm sorry, that was out yesterday, busts Twitter in it's almost, okay, this is one of those, if you didn't know, how couldn't you know? And if you did know, how could you do it sort of stories. So if you did know, how could you do it? And if you didn't know, how couldn't you know? Like, who the heck are you to not to know this? So Twitter is continuing to sell the blue check mark to accounts it knows to be propagandists. These are the ultra angry anti-Ukraine. Just think of you know who I'm talking about, audience. I don't even want to go through who these accounts are or how they operate. But they're there, and yeah, this is the blue checkmark program just being sold as it's just such a stupid idea.
You know, did people say that when he said it? Oh, right, they did. And then he fired the entire internal team that would have helped taking care of this. The only one left is someone who's, a yes man to Musk, or girl. It's a girl, so yes woman to Musk. So yeah, they are. There's no verification process. You just pay and you get a blue check.
The reason
So,
this is important today, though, and we're running short. We're down to 10 minutes. Sorry to interrupt you,
yeah,
Christine, but
no, that's okay. That's okay.
the biggest reason this is important today, I mean, besides the Russian propagandists and the extraordinary harm they're doing to Western democracy, is 2 court cases that are being heard by the Supreme Court, ostensibly around Section 230, the little bit of the line in the Communications Decency Act that indemnifies internet platforms from liability for the content their users put up. Well, there's 2 court cases that are in the Supreme Court right now, and a very reluctant Supreme Court is hearing them. And interestingly, both sides of the Supreme Court don't want to hear this, because both sides are saying we're not the ones to decide this.
But they chose it, so they did want to hear it. They wanted to make a decision on it. But you're right, they are saying this isn't for us to decide. This is Congress, which is where it should reside, which is the Section 230 would be a decision of Congress, not the Supreme Court, generally speaking.
So the first case involves YouTube videos of ISIS inspired YouTube, and ISIS created YouTube videos. The second case is Twitter versus Tamina. What's the particulars in Twitter versus Tamina, the second one?
Oh, you would ask me, wouldn't you?
I'm so sorry. I had it on the tip of my tongue. I don't want to get it wrong.
Off the top of my head, this is one. Oh, they were allowing accounts they say that they knew were ISIS based on the platform and not addressing the issue. I don't remember. The first case, someone died.
Okay, yeah. In the first case, YouTube videos were said to radicalize terrorists who killed an American citizen in Paris. YouTube knowingly ran these videos. They knew the content. In fact, YouTube's algorithm recommended these videos to people who viewed them. That's what YouTube does. Similarly, with Twitter, in Twitter versus Tamina, Twitter put up or Twitter hosted Twitter profiles from the Islamic State. The Islamic State used those profiles to radicalize young persons around the world, in America, in Canada, in Great Britain, etc. And some of those young persons made the terrible decision to leave their countries and go join ISIS.
And commit terrorist acts. Yeah.
Well, yeah. You know what? Just even going to join them, and maybe you went and got married. A young woman left and got married. Didn't do a thing. She's still committing a terrorist act by giving support to the organization in one way or another. So yeah, that law is pretty liberal as in its application. So the crux is, are the platforms responsible for the content that other people put on them? Well, there's one last hook here. These cases aren't necessarily about 230 as much as they are about the organizations behind the litigation of the cases. There is a band of right-wing litigators who cherry pick cases and move them up levels of courts, looking for sympathetic judges along the way to advance political agendas through the court system. And both of these cases are very suspect, mostly because there's other remedies for the platforms beyond needing to indemnify themselves. Christine, I think that's the best descriptions I can give of the cases, without being a lawyer.
No, those are very accurate from what I've read, and I think, you know, the idea that it being pushed up the court system is also something that the, you know, Supreme Court in their questions aren't saying, oh, you did this, but they are saying, why is this not in front of Congress? You know, that's kind of been the main crux. Like, this isn't something that we should decide, because they're getting support on both sides, like Twitter and Google. It's not a right or left, you know, thing in this case. They're getting support on both sides of the argument. So, so it does seem that SCOTUS right now on the YouTube case, I haven't read enough about how the Twitter case is going, but the YouTube case right now, it doesn't sound like they're going to find against YouTube and Google for what happened on the recommendation system. And on the Twitter case, since it's under kind of a similar thing, although they didn't moderate who was on the platform, so that might go a different direction. Right now, I think both of them are not looking like they're going to weaken 230, which is the goal of these cases, is to weaken 230.
Now, I mean, for these litigators, they chose cases that is, you have to be very dispassionate when you look at them, because on the surface, I mean, Christine, these are like ISIS videos. These are the guys who decapitated people and put those videos online. That's the level of awfulness we're talking about. And the group of litigators who are policy shopping through the courts chose these cases because for someone like me, I'm 230 is important for the internet. It keeps, honest to goodness, it's what stops the lawsuits from just overwhelming service providers. Even if the platforms were to win every lawsuit that would come at them, they'd be bankrupted just fighting them. You know, 230 is what protects against that. But at the same time, do we really want to give free license to the Islamic State and actors like that to propagandize using, you know, like the internet?
Well, I think the question here, and this is what you're just saying was summarized in the Washington Post about the arguments yesterday. And so it's the oral arguments that stretched for more than 2.5 hours. The justices at time expressed confusion about the plaintiff's case and concern about potentially exposing companies to a deluge of lawsuits over how they handle content. But they also dug into whether there should be a legal distinction between hosting and amplifying music content when it comes to assessing liability, but whether that should be left to Congress, not SCOTUS. So I don't know that it's so much about whether it should be allowed that they're deciding. It's more who should decide it. Should it be the Supreme Court or Congress, you know, which is a representation of the people of the United States, not just, you know, the justices. So I think right now, at least in the YouTube case, it looks like they're leaning more towards it should not be SCOTUS decision, but that doesn't mean that they're ruling on whether that content should be on the platform or not. And I do think that there might be an argument to the difference between hosting and amplifying, because if you just post something on YouTube and it doesn't get amplified, who sees it, right? So if it's not in the recommendation engine, who sees it? But this is also a different case because it's happened with children and porn, you know, who they've gotten recommendations for porn or violence. So it's happened in other circumstances, not just this one. But I don't know that that's a Section 230 situation. Like, you could put it there, but if Google didn't amplify it or Twitter didn't amplify it, no one would have seen it in the first place.
Well, indeed, this isn't necessarily a free speech issue, even though it's obviously a free speech issue. It's not necessarily a free speech issue because, well, the truth is on social media, especially this year, and incidentally, it's worth noting, this is being recorded on the 1-year anniversary of the illegal invasion and occupation of parts of Ukraine by Russia. I have seen, because of that illegal invasion and occupation, I have seen more people die online in the last year than I've seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
So there's no law against posting a video of someone getting killed. There's tons of videos out there of people getting killed. Horrible material. There's, some laws like kiddie porn, horrible material. There's laws against that, but that's not against the material. It's against the exploitation of the child that was caught on the material.
Right. Exactly. And there are laws that do prevent certain things from being on the platform. You cannot have child porn on your platform.
Nope, you can't
That's not-
disseminate it.
No, so it's not protected by 230. So Congress could make laws that exclude certain types of content from 230 protections. Like I think that you need to see the realities of war. We sanitize it so much, people don't really understand what's going on in Ukraine, right? But I don't think we need to have ISIS promotional videos on there where they're beheading people who are reporters or kicking people off rooftops who are gay. So that you could put in an exclusion, the government could put in an exclusion from 230 for certain types of groups, terrorist groups.
Given that we just solved this in a 5-minute segment on a podcast, it's surprising this made it all the way to the Supreme Court in both cases.
It really is. And even the Supreme Court, like I just noted from the Washington Post, is a bit confused about why it was brought to the court. And they do decide what cases to take, and they only take something like 80 a year out of hundreds. But maybe they wanted to make that final decision that it needs to go to Congress so it doesn't come in front of them again, because there have been multiple attempts to weaken 230 through the Supreme Court. And if they make the decision now that it is not theirs to decide, then the next time someone tries to bring it up, it won't come in front of the Supreme Court, or they can readily reject it without having any concern.
Okay, that's they should have us on CNN to explain this.
They really
to a
should.
nation, because this I've spent the last couple of days trying to figure these cases out. Like literally, it's been really bugging me. You and I had a fairly passionate argument over these cases yesterday. Yeah, indeed.
We do, which is good.
And again, I think that this is one of the most important cases that have been in front of the court in relation to the internet in a long time, but it shouldn't have been there in the first place.
No, I agree, but I do think we should just make one point here on this topic, and that is why Section 230 is so important. And it's so important because anything anybody posts to a site, if it went away, you would suddenly be responsible for as a site owner. Comments, reviews, content, videos, any of that stuff, suddenly every site owner would be responsible for and could be sued on.
And that's okay.
So,
we'll just get AI to moderate it.
Exactly. So people don't understand why the importance. That's why it's so important. So if it was to go away tomorrow, suddenly every site in the universe online that takes any kind of user content would be responsible and could be sued for that user content. So that would be a very, very bad thing.
Or though it could easily be argued that might be a bad thing in the short term, but a good thing in the long term, given the damage done by really piss poor information being pushed around the internet.
No, no, it cannot be argued.
It would knock the economic underpinnings of the internet out from under all of our feet.
No more TikTok, no more Facebook, no more Etsy, no more. What else? No more sites. No
well, here's
more
the thing, Christine. I grew up in a time. My career started in a time when there was no Facebook and no Etsy and all of that stuff, and I was.
We had MySpace. We had MySpace.
Nope, I started before that too, and we were doing just fine. And by the way, MySpace rocked. MySpace was so cool. You could do anything you wanted there, and no one said boo. But then again, nobody was being very few people were using the internet to be a total jerks to each other.
Yeah, let's add to the fact that the weaponization of the internet has become such a thing in the last decade.
Indeed.
And by nation states. So it's not just a simple thing anymore. It's like Joe has a really obnoxious, nasty opinion, and he wants to put it on a website, so we'll send him to 4chan, right? It's like really big money behind big propaganda platforms and things like that. So it's become a big issue. But you're right. I don't think it should have been in front of the Supreme Court.
Okay, with a little bit of luck, we won't be before the courts, but we will be before our sponsor next week, Audience Key. We're going to have Tom on, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We've gone full circle. We're at the top of the clock. So on behalf of Christine Schackinger from Sites Without Walls, this is Jim Hedge from Digital Always Media. You've been listening to Webcology, recorded live to podcast on the 23rd of February, 2023. Be safe, be smart, code well, rank well, be kind to each other, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everybody.